For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jolyn Vallejo. I am the director of Latin SF. Latin SF is a public-private partnership. It's created between the San Francisco Mayor's Office and the nonprofit organization Global SF. We're the gateway for economic development between Latin America, San Francisco, and the rest of the globe for government officials, companies, investors, entrepreneurs, and of course, organizations. Ever since 2015, which is when Latin SF was started, we've been helping about 100 companies with San Francisco or Latin America soft landing, Latin America market penetration, elaboration of go-to-market strategies, workshops, events, and webinars like this one. We've also brought $25.5 million to the city of San Francisco and created numerous jobs. If you want to learn more, you can always reach out to us or check out latinsf.org. This morning, we've prepared a wonderful webinar, very educational in its nature, where you'll get an overview of the current Mexican economy and the manufacturing industry. Plus, you will always have real testimonies of executives of major national corporations that are running large-scale productions in one or more of Mexico's industrial parks. And this is why we've decided to have Miguel Barreda with us, who represents Lintel, Mexico's top industrial developer and design builder. And we've partnered with Lintel because they're going to be able to tell us a little bit more about what Mexico has to offer. Miguel, good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jolene, and welcome all. Good morning. In the next 90 minutes, we will be sharing USMCA opportunities and Mexico perspectives from two of the most respected leaders in the diplomatic, entrepreneurial, and manufacturing sectors in Mexico, as well as experiences and challenges while opening operations in Mexico from our three panelists. I will also be providing insight on Lintel's developments throughout Mexico. But before having Jolene introduce our first keynote speaker, I will leave you with a 2-minute video that provides a quick overview of our organization. Thank you and welcome.
Lintel, founded in 1983 in Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, is a construction company specialized in industrial parks, which designs and builds by making innovations with the highest quality standards. We are the first construction company certified under ISO 9002, having constructed the first industrial building, which obtained the LEED Gold certification for our engineers in 2008. We are constantly innovating our technology, specializing in the tilt-up construction system, which offers added value. 95% of our clients are foreigners. We participate in 2 or more projects with 93% of them. We think. We design. We build. Strategic location. In the region of the Bajío, at the center of the most dynamic zone for industrial development in Mexico, Mexico City, Jalisco, and Nuevo León. Guanajuato Inland Port, with 5 industrial parks, Santa Fe, which are an example of the joint work of Lintel and the state government in one of the most important and dynamic clusters in Latin America. Las Colinas de Silao, Guanajuato, is also located in the most important logistic node of the state. Colinas de Apaseo el Grande, Guanajuato, an industrial park for the supply of our neighbor, Toyota. Colinas de León, Guanajuato, which places León on the world map as an attractive industrial destination in our country. Colinas de San Luis, in San Luis Potosí. Its great location allows for an important reduction in transportation times. And Colinas de Lagos, Jalisco, which is integrated into the development of the region, innovating processes and building methods. Lintel Intelligence, a master plan of innovation, precision, and sustainable success.
That was an incredible video. Thank you, everyone. For those of you that just joined, I want to remind you all to put in your questions in the Q&A box, and we will be getting to those towards the end of the webinar. Right now, it is my pleasure to present to you Luis Aguirre, President of the National Council for Export Manufacturing. He has quite a career, and I'm not going to get to all of his accomplishments, but just to give you an idea of who will be speaking to you in the next few minutes, he has been instrumental in various organizations in Mexico, driving manufacturing forward, trade, cross-border trade, and as former vice president of the Mexican Confederation of Industrial Chambers, otherwise known as CONCAMIN. He was also in 2011 instrumental in getting legislation passed with favorable fiscal benefits for the Mexican export sector. Today, he will be sharing with us industry numbers on Mexican's manufacturing industry today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Luis Aguirre to join us.
Thank you very much, Jolene. Let me share my screen. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to thank to Intel for inviting to this important webinar. I really enjoy this opportunity to share what is exactly facing right now in Mexico and what is the opportunities that we see and we can offer for foreign investors. This is the agenda, just to have a very quick revision in the coming 15 minutes that I have. So let's move on. And probably some of you are not very familiar with that program. This is a government program. This is a very old program, 55 years ago was created just for the northern border to provide, generate employment in this area after the end of the Bracero program in the United States. But after these 5 decades, to move across these sectors with a very, very high appreciated in the worldwide market. Today, the sectors that we have in Mexico with an IMEX program is the automotive, that is the major number of programs in Mexico implemented, electric and electronic, aerospace, medical equipment, home appliance, agro industry, food and beverage, textile and garments, and jewelry. Basically, after we have a very well integrated process in Mexico, just research and development, manufacturing, we are already working very hard and integrated additional previous and post manufacturing service in order to have a very integrated opportunity and option for manufacturing in Mexico. Index is the national council that represents the export manufacturing industry with all the companies with this IMEX program. And our mission is to represent companies to against Mexico's leadership competitiveness within our global environment. Our vision is to basically make the best organization of excellence for providing these advantages and move forward for this leadership for all our membership. We have 21 associations across the country, and these green points you will see where are located. And just to give you an idea where are located, the more than 6,000 IMEX are located, 210 in the center in the Bajío zone, 10% in the west zone, and almost 2% in the south and southwest zone. We are 6,370 companies. 81% of the IMEX plants are dedicated to manufacturing process. 19% of them are service companies that complement the manufacturing companies. We are almost 3 million of direct employees. This represents 17% of the permanent employees registered in the Social Security Institute in Mexico. The mix of this direct employment is 74% are direct labor and technicians, and 26% are administrative. This industry generates 7.5 million of indirect too in Mexico. The IMEX industry in Mexico represents the 65% of the total exportations of Mexico, and 70% if we are talking only about manufactured products. In this same period, the IMEX export were equivalent, just to give you an idea, 10 times of oil exports made it in last year, almost 10 times of tourist income in 2019, and 7 times remittances coming from other countries. Last year, we have more than $64 billion in trade surplus. This is the importance of the economy that generates this IMEX in Mexico. This program allows to receive all of these type of companies in order to import equipment, machinery, raw material, and other stuff in order to manufacturing in Mexico and export the finished good outside of Mexico. And this is some of our members in the National Council of Manufacturing. I know there's in the National Council, we have different committees and working groups in order to generate analysis and provide information and documentation in order that index can municipality governments in order to generate the public policies that help to keep the competitiveness and productivity of this important sector in the country. I just want to share with you some of the most important committees for this market that we are talking to you on this occasion. It's about the shelter program. This the IMEX shelter concept is a very fast and very good solution in order to start and operate a business in Mexico in a successful way. We are make a synergy with the industrial parks in order to implement this IMEX shelter concept and help with foreign investment to include in their implementation or a successfully step up and ongoing operation on the Manufacturers Mexico plant. This is, we have 3 different models for startup and launch an assistant, or if you prefer and stand alone, this is another model, the shelter services in a dedicated shelter packs. So there is a very experienced ways to help you to start operations in Mexico. Additional for our membership, well, this is something that I would like to offer you when you decide to move to Mexico, is to be part of our membership in order to can you receive all these benefits. We have in our membership important participants for federal and state and municipality authorities, when we have a very good collaboration among other organizations from the private and the public sectors. We try to keep very informed our membership about daily communications, because you know it's important to be in compliance with all the not only human capital, tax, trade, and other alerts and bulletins. Finally, I just would like to share with you some of the most important or key lobbying achievements from Index. This is we have been participating in active participation in the USMCA negotiation. We were responsible to obtain a special decree for avoidance of the value-added tax cash flow impact derived from the 2014 imposition of the VAT on imports, among others important activities and lobbying achievements that Index in these 55 years of experience has generated in favor of the competitiveness and productivity of this export industry sector. Finally, I will share from Index. Now with the USMCA implementation, as you are familiar, there are origin rules that demands a major percentage of regional content. This means that we need to produce more in this region in order to integrate products or finished goods that we want to trade with United States and Canada. And Mexico is a very good opportunity for bring or relocate specific assembles or sub-assembles that needs to get a more regional. The second opportunity that I would like to talk about is the US versus China commercial war. Mexico is now 23% more competitive than China, not only in manufacturing cost. This includes the logistics and energy, according with a very analysis of PricewaterhouseCoopers recently published. And finally, this IMEX program that I have trying to let you know and to share the benefits of having this program in Mexico is now a very experimented business manufacturing model. We, with this 55 years of experience, we already have across 26 states of the 32 that are in Mexico. We can identify qualified labor. Here is basically our web page and intermediate information where you can get more in details information about Index and the benefits to be established in Mexico and be part of the IMEX family. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I will be very attentive to receive all your questions and stuff. Thank you very much, Jolene.
Thank you, Luis. What an incredible short and concise presentation. I know that we worked hard on getting that to 10 minutes. I can't thank you enough for sharing that with us. And I want to remind all participants that we do have some other speakers that will continue to share about the US-China relationships, benefits for Mexico, and redirecting your supply chain through Mexico so that you can take advantage of those USMCA opportunities. Now, I would like to welcome Miguel Barreda, our partner in this event. Throughout the organization, it's been such a pleasure to work with you, and I also can't thank you enough for being there, explaining to me a little bit more about manufacturing and sharing with us how Lintel really works with different partners. I think, first of all, I'd like to tell the audience a little bit about who you are. You're the Director of Business Development and Managing Partner with Lintel. And for those of you who had just joined in, Lintel is a leading Mexican industrial developer and design builder with offices in North and Central Mexico. Miguel has almost 35 years of experience in different aspects of design and construction of light industrial facilities. Miguel is also in charge of promoting and facilitating the establishment of foreign-owned companies in many of its developments through Mexico. So in the organization of this webinar, Miguel and I talked about how we wanted to share information and what we wanted to share. For me, it's really important to educate our stakeholders, and Latin SF is very instrumental in trying to make sure that when we work with clients, we're really presenting the best opportunities to you. So one of the things that was interesting while I worked with panelists and while I worked with some government officials is that everyone seemed to mention that the clients that work with Lintel see Lintel more as a partner and not a service provider. one of the things that kept coming up was, we really trust Lintel, we really trust Miguel. So I think one thing that I'd like you to share briefly, if you can, is how is it that you work with clients, and why do you think that they see you more as a partner than a contractor, for example?
Thank you, Jolene. First of all, that's very nice to hear. I guess, it's a good question. As part of a systematic process, we work with each client to identify their requirements, and we apply value engineering methods for every aspect of the building. But something that we always do, and I think it's important to mention, is treat every project as our own. Remember that we are developers and we're builders. We build our own buildings in our own parks. So we pretty much know where to invest the money on a building. And we transfer and we share that knowledge with our customers. And I believe also that something that makes us different is the direct participation of the partners and the principals contributing the more than 35 years of experience in each and every project. That's something that I have gathered as well from other customers, and that's something that we definitely appreciate very much.
Sounds about right.
Now, if I may, I would like to provide a brief overview of Lintel. Let me just share my screen here with you. Okay. Well, let me just 1 second, please. As you saw from the video at the beginning, Lintel is basically a design builder and industrial developer. And from a builder standpoint, most of what we do is under the so-called design build concept, where our objective is to provide our customers with a single source for designing, engineering, and building their facilities under a single contract. And that places Lintel as a single source of accountability with our customers. The company started in 1983, and since then we've designed and built approximately 280 projects, very diverse kinds that go from manufacturing facilities, simple logistic buildings, and the more sophisticated clean room type buildings. Those 280 projects amount to roughly 30 million square feet of construction. And from a developer standpoint, we have 10 industrial parks with a total of 5,400 acres of fully developed land. These are located in central Mexico, and those are the ones that we're going to be discussing today. Now, we consider ourselves to have the perfect blend of size. On the one hand, we are large enough so that based on a guaranteed volume of work per year, we receive preferential prices from our main vendors and suppliers. We transfer those to our customers, and that's how we keep ourselves competitive. But at the same time, we're small enough so that, as I mentioned before, each one of the partners, each one of the principals, we know the exact status of each and every project at any time. And the end result is 93% of everything that we have done in almost 40 years is repeat business. Companies for whom we've done 2 different buildings, or some others whom we have done 15 buildings for them. So we're very happy of this record, and that's our main focus. Our customers include companies from all over the world, but also from different industry sectors. And I'm sure that by looking at this slide, you're going to recognize many of the logos here. And I want to point out, including, you can see Lear here, and you can see Nidec. And I'm very happy to be joined today by 2 of the panelists. One is from Nidec, and the other one is from Lear. And they're going to be sharing their experiences in coming to Mexico, in addition to a 3rd panelist that I will talk about a little later on. Almost 20 years ago, Lintel received ISO 9000 certification as a design builder, becoming the very first Mexican design builder to receive this certification. And there were many purposes why we wanted to achieve this, but one of the main ones was at this time, we were transferring most of our resources from North Mexico to Central Mexico. And we wanted to standardize our systems so that regardless of location, we would achieve the exact same quality of work, either North, either South, Central Mexico, or what have you. And as they say, the easy part is becoming certified. The difficult part is maintaining that certification. And I'm glad to say that almost for 20 years now, we've been certified and still one of the very few design builders with ISO certification. As part of our philosophy, we're always trying to measure ourselves with other top builders, not only in Mexico, but also in the US. And this is a very important example of that. Tilt-up concrete construction is very common in the US, but it wasn't in Mexico 20 years ago. And in only the second building that we built, we submitted our project to an annual competition that the Tilt-up Concrete Association holds every year. And I'm happy to say that we were the very first Mexican company to receive such an honor. We received it actually 3 times in the first 4 years, and we have gotten it another 7 times since. Now, we're not in the business of designing and building buildings just for competition or awards, but it's definitely a very good way to measure ourselves against top competition. Also, a few years back, we designed and built the very first LEED Gold certified building. LEED, of course, is the acronym for Leadership of Energy and Environmental Design. And this building was a special requirement from Lexmark. Actually, what they wanted is simply to get the building certified, not certified gold, but the end result was that we ended up with the gold certification that we're very proud of. Just a quick example of building exteriors of some of our facilities. And to point out a couple, on the upper row, the building to the farthest right, that's Guala Dispensing. That's a company from Italy. And I'm very, very happy to have as a panelist here, Paolo Ratto. He's one of our panelists, and he will be also sharing his experiences when they first came to Mexico. This is their first operation in Mexico, by the way. And then to the left, in the middle, in the upper row, you see a building. That's Forcia. That's a French company. And this is a perfect example of a design done overseas. This was done in Paris. And when we were assigned the job, what we did is what we tropicalized the design. Based on what's available in Mexico in terms of materials, methods, skills, this is what we came up with. And it still looks very much like a European industrial building, which is what they wanted us to maintain. But this is something that once in a while happens, where we have to adapt a design that was done somewhere else. And it's an example of a few interiors, which are again part of our design build contract. We can see a couple of lobby areas there, open office areas. And then on the bottom line, from left to right, or from right to left, rather, we can see typical logistics facility, manufacturing, and to the left, a more sophisticated type of clean room type building that we have a lot of experience in doing so, by the way. Now, from an industrial developer standpoint, this is our basic concept. And I'm going to describe very quick the different parks. Las Colinas, the one on the farthest left, that was our very first park almost 20 years ago. Unfortunately, that park, well, fortunately for us, it's completely full. I mean, there's no empty lot available there. And then we have the Santa Fe parks. I mentioned at the beginning that we have 10 parks, and that's because Santa Fe, it's actually 4 parks in a single premise or development. That's located in Silao, Guanajuato. And then we have Colinas de San Luis, which is in San Luis Potosí. That's the city to the farthest north. In other words, closest to the US-Mexico border. Then we have Colinas de León in the city of León, which is the largest city where we have an industrial park with 1.6 million in population in the state of Guanajuato as well. Then Colinas de Lagos, it's our only park in the state of Jalisco, in the city of Lagos de Moreno. Colinas del Rincón, also located southwest of León. And Colinas de Apaseo, which is actually in the state of Guanajuato, but only about 15 to 20 minutes away from Querétaro and the excellent quality of life that they have there in Querétaro. So we're going to be focusing on the blue ring here. And again, our parks are located within that blue ring. That blue ring is only a 100-mile radius, and it includes certain regions of 3 states. From right to left, the green, that's San Luis Potosí. Then the red is Guanajuato state. And to the left, we have the state of Jalisco. So if we zoom in, this is the same 100-kilometer radius. And again, all of the developments are within that ring. And you can see a dotted line. That's Highway 45. And that's the most dynamic industrial corridor in Mexico and definitely in Latin America. And the reason why we came here to that area and why so many companies and so many suppliers are there, this is the only place in Mexico really where you can find medium to large size cities. And by medium to large size cities, I mean anywhere from 500,000 in population to 1.5 million, very close to each other. These cities are 15 to 20 minutes apart. And it gives you a very unique condition of having or attracting labor or your supply chain, and also the amount of people graduating each year. And it's very common to have people live in one of the towns and work on a different town. And also, you can see in this map, they're equally distant from the Gulf of Mexico as well as to the Pacific. So this is, again, a very, very unique area that it's really the only one that you can find with those conditions. We're probably a little different from most developers in terms of selecting the right location for our parks. Suitable soil for industrial construction, that's critical. And you're going to find a lot of land in central Mexico that's agricultural. And then from one day to the next, you convert that into an industrial park. And that's not a very good decision. But these different criteria is what we like to apply to each and every selection of where we're going to be locating the park. One of the most important is the proper size. We like to cap the size of the parks to less than 500 acres so that we don't have the same companies in the park compete against each other for the same labor. But one of the most important is the proximity to housing communities. And that's every park is located very near the people. And the more you reduce the commute time of your workers, the longer those workers will remain with your company. That's just a fact. Very quick, the infrastructure of the parks is basically the same. It's world-class type of infrastructure. So it really depends on who your final customer is and where you're bringing your raw material from, and we will locate you in one park or another. But real quick, the electrical infrastructure, I mean, we have as much as 90 MVA on any given park. In terms of water, we either do it through deep wells or connect it to the city network, depending on the city. We have very robust rainwater sewers, wastewater treatment plant, natural gas visibility. That's very important for those companies that require natural gas for their process. All of our parks are completely fenced in for security and safety reasons. And of course, we have an on-site parks management office where we administer or we charge a monthly fee or maintenance fee that goes into paying the security personnel or the landscaping and things of that sort. We, of course, have rules and regulations like any other park, but we do enforce them because that goes a long way into preserving the value of the property over time. In a nutshell, those 10 park, altogether, it gives us a total of 5,400 roughly acres. The number of companies is 226, almost 7 billion in direct investment. Direct employees, 61,000 people. Indirect employees, 278. And the benefited inhabitants, we estimate that to be anywhere around 2.2 and 2.3 million people. That's the people that are immediately adjacent to where our parks are. One of the last things that I wanted to show you, and this is very important from a real estate solution standpoint, we're the most versatile developer that you can find out there, because even though we are a builder, we do not have exclusivity to build in our parks. We believe that we're the most competitive, but you can buy the land by itself. You can buy land and construction. We can design and build a facility for you on a lease basis. That's the build to suit lease. We have multi-tenant buildings where we can incubate you while we build your own building. And in those multi-tenant facilities, we have as much as 4 companies or 6 companies, depending on the size. And we have those facilities in each and every of our parks. And that's for companies that need to move in quick. And this is a good example of what those buildings look like. And just for you to make a note, this is just a rough estimate of cost references. Anywhere between $420 to $450 per square foot a land sale. Lease rates, they would be around $450 per square foot per year. This does not include tenant improvements. And then construction cost, I wanted to use 150,000 square feet as a reference. It would be somewhere around $40 for a standard building and a little around $53 for more controlled particle building. It's not a clean room, but it's almost a clean room. And I'm gonna leave you with these numbers to remember, which again, it's very eloquent and very representative of the area where we are. 75 million consumer within a 300-mile radius of that location. Almost 80% of Mexico's GDP is within 300 miles, the same radius. And no registered labor strikes in the last 30 years on any of those locations. And now, there's only so much I can tell you in 15 minutes, but to Jolene's point, please send us your questions. You can send them to Global SF, or you can send it to my email, and we promise to answer back each and every one of your questions. Once again, thank you and welcome.
All right, Miguel, thank you again. And for audience members that are writing in the Q&A, I am acknowledging your questions. I'm not ignoring them. We will get to them towards the end of this webinar. It's exciting to see that many of you are so interested in asking very technical questions. And I also want to remind you that we are recording this webinar and it will be distributed towards the end when we finalize. I think that it's important now to switch gears and introduce our next keynote speaker, who I am so very honored to have here today. Mr. Francisco Gonzalez is really such an incredible person because his whole trajectory in the public sector has meant so much for Mexico. He is the former CEO of BANCOMEXT, which is the Mexican Bank for Foreign Trade and Investment. And for those of you who are familiar with EXIM, it's the EXIM version in Mexico of foreign trade for banking. He was also the former CEO of PROMEXICO. And for those of you who have done business with Mexico in the past, we all know what a terrible loss it's been to have PROMEXICO close. It's been a right-hand partner for us for years. They've done amazing work for Mexico itself, not only in foreign direct investment, but in creating initiatives for innovation, for tech companies, for investment. And Mr. Francisco Gonzalez, as CEO, was able to attract more than $50 million of foreign direct investment, and 160 Mexican companies were also able to become international, as well as fostering $12,500 million in exports. Without further ado, if Francisco, if you're able to now jump on and join us, we'd love to have you come and Share your screen. There we go. Francisco, hi. Thank you.
Hi, Jolene. Thank you very much. And all the organizers, I want to express my congratulations, because this is part of the things we did in the past to promote precisely these possibilities in the bilateral relationship between Mexico and the US. And specifically, I want to introduce you the new perspectives of the Mexican economy with the USMCA. Then I continue with this. Well, in this new perspective of the Mexican economy, we obviously have not only seen but lived this challenging year, not only because of the COVID, but so many things. And I take a time to say all our friends in San Francisco and send you our solidarity with you, because you have had a terrible time in the past weeks. We hope that everything will be okay in the near future. And you can see that these conditions obviously bring a lot of change in what we're thinking about doing business. But I see only positive things in the near future, precisely. Let me tell you 3 points of the general situation in the Mexico economics that will bring you to review the possibilities to invest in Mexico. One of these is the exchange rate. The foreign currencies are weaker against the dollar, and in this sense, the Mexican peso is especially weak. What does this mean? That you can do more business with your dollars in Mexico. And what for? Precisely to invest with Lintel, to invest and to bring all the needs for the clean and a very good production. And that's why also the investments are in this moment in a very low part, and we're expecting to jump in the next months and also years. And the inflation, this is, let's say so, this has been more volatile, obviously because of all the variables, but as you can see also in the rest of the world. I simply can tell you that this general situation of the Mexico economics are obviously a reflex of what's happening in the world, but you can see that these are good opportunities for you. And in this general situation, I can tell you many people have been asking me all my career, how is Mexico? What is Mexico? How do you compare Mexico with the world? And this is the best possibility I have to share with you. And this is, for example, the region, the municipality of Benito Juárez in Mexico City, because of the Human Development Index, is almost like Switzerland. In the case of San Pedro Garza Garcia, like Israel, the Cuauhtemoc municipality in Mexico City, like Italy. What I want to share with you here is precisely the very great differences, obviously some painful differences. We have also some parts in Mexico, like Mali and Burundi, for example. But what we can manage is that these differences have been lowering and now are more and more entering into the high development municipalities because precisely of the investments that you can do and we have been receiving in the past years. These world trends after COVID, and I want to tell you that these trends have been covered relatively with a good background in the new USMCA, in the new free trade agreement. First of all, the e-commerce. Obviously, the pandemic has put e-commerce at the forefront of retail, and its penetration jumped, pulling forward several years of adoption. Sourcing diversification, supply chains will seek to be less reliant on one country, let's say specifically on the other side of the Pacific, in order to make more efficient and reduce risk in the production and distribution. Let's go in the same direction to regionalization. The renewed trend of a domestic supply chain, this is not only Mexico, US, it's worldwide, trends to accelerate the reshoring and near sourcing in some sectors such as technology, medical devices, and pharmaceutical. In the facilities, companies have started looking for facilities that are near their manufacturing, this in order to have their inventory at hand. And this fueling the demand, there has been a growth in the logistics real estate, which can be supported by the following factors. Growth of e-commerce, especially in Mexico. E-commerce has been a top growing market, and with the pandemic, global e-commerce is expected to have a double-digit growth for next years. Second, the change in urban population has affected how the logistics space is used. And the third one is with the USMCA, North America supply chain will strengthen, creating demand for leasable AAA industrial space. Manufacturing and logistics, obviously the Chinese market plays a special role due to its cost savings benefits. China was the quintessential choice for the US manufacturing. Now there's a shift and manufacturers are looking at Mexico due to currency, proximity, transportation costs, and tariffs. And if you remember in the presentation of Luis Aguirre, he explicitly explained that it's 62% of the costs that you have to spend in China. And in this sense, this is Mexico, a lower cost country to produce. The NAFTA, actually the USMCA, created an integrated supply chains between the countries, especially between the US and Mexico. Mexico became a vital producer in key goods such as automobiles, aerospace, electronics, and medical devices. In the presentation of Miguel Angel, you can see all these important names that are hosted precisely in Lintel. Promotes digital commerce, the NAFTA USMCA, also intellectual property protections, and establishes dispute settlement guidelines. In a few words, it protects investors. And the IMEX Industries is also a key developer for new investment in Mexico. And I don't want to explain a lot of it, only to put that the presentation and information that Luis gave us a few minutes ago are very important, so this can encourage American companies to choose Mexico for their manufacturing. Mexico cost effectiveness. Since 2007, there has been rising wages in China. Adding the appreciation of the yuan against the dollar has led to a steady loss of China market share against Mexico, especially in labor-intensive manufacturing exports, like transport equipment and parts, but also in technology and electronic manufacturing. In China's case, Mexico is also an interesting destination for FDI, as companies are basing manufacturing in Mexico. Mexico has reduced shipping times and costs. The benefits of near-shoring is a greater supply chain efficiency than in China. And also in Mexico, foreign companies can obtain additional incentives like trade, facilities, duty, free customs benefits, infrastructure, development prerogatives, and easier regulatory processes. In overhead costs, you have savings in energy costs, natural gas, and leases rates. Let's stop 1 second. Sorry, it jumped many. It's now ready. The benefits of the commercial opening in Mexico, you can see this if you have been part of the development in Mexico and precisely the former NAFTA. You can see that it jumped 17 times the manufacturing and the exports level of 85 to 2019. If you see here, in 1985, oil was the main export good, and manufacturing was only 38%. Actually, it's 89%, and oil and extractive industries only 7%. And 82% of all exports go to the USA. In the automotive sector, this is the most used example, is we had 5 brands and few models in 85. Now we have more than 20 brands and diversity of models. This brings also something called the manufacturing benchmark. In Mexico is the only place worldwide that you have precisely in the blue circle that Miguel showed us a few minutes ago. We have almost all brands of cars in this region. This means that if you're producing auto parts for Toyota or for Volkswagen, for the motors of Volkswagen, or you are producing to GM, you have to benchmark because there are different benchmarks in different countries. In this case, you have the best in Mexico. Sorry. The world context. The trade tensions between USA and China, obviously with the COVID impact, surge a demand and supply shock. The drop in global growth of 3% for Mexico, a 10% drop in GDP is estimated. Decline in merchandise world trade between 13 and 32%, and exports in North America between 17 and 41%. What is required for the recovery? Boosted trade as an engine of the economy, reestablish and generate supply chains, and take advantage of the TICs. Which is a trade relationship with China. The NAFTA region is the main destination for Chinese exports globally. You can see the exports and imports. We have a trade imbalance, a trade balance of $556 billion. The imports are concentrated in sectors like communication equipment, audio, video equipment, auto parts, electronic, capital goods, and medical devices. You can see here in the different years how still the NAFTA region is the #1 region. And here you can see specifically the trade deficit of USA with China is huge. It's growing, or it was growing before the COVID, and it's the third export market for the United States. Sanctions in billions of dollars, accumulated figures. You can see here the different US rate, the Chinese rate, and the rate percentage that has been sanctioned. As you can see in the past years, months, sorry, and the last one was the sanctions of the US, total $250 billion in goods. If an agreement is not reached, the US sanctions may reach the total of Chinese exports. And this is very interesting. We had a negative growth in 2019, and this is the opportunity I'm telling you. We have a possibility to rebound and to, again, be, as we have been in the past years, a machine, a very important tractor of the Latin American economy. If you want to see the China's input to the world GDP, you can see that in the 19th, China only represented 4.1, and actually they represented 19.3. We estimated that the participation of the different parts of the world in the economy should be precisely that in the NAFTA region can reboot and again be a very important player in the world economy. We are, but we should regain a very important part of it. And these relevant aspects between what is the USA data of 2017, which sectors are more important in the economy of the United States, 15.78% is telecommunications and computing production. And you can see here the others. This data comes from the Harvard and MIT Atlas of Competitiveness. And specifically, and interesting is to see and to compare specific areas like electronic integrated circuits in the United States. And in this sense, the part of how in China is seen, for example, 3.1% of the Chinese and 1.78 in the United States. I think that many of these production facilities in China are from USA origin. We can see here many of the layers of the US-China tensions. Obviously, there is security, there is a global leadership, but I want to concentrate in tech and in trade. And I think that with these two parts joining and re-teaming up with Mexico will strengthen the possibilities of regaining a part as a very important player in the world. And how can we do this? Precisely with the new rules of origin of the USMCA. In this case, I will take the most complex area, but also the one that it's easier to explain. Why? Because it's the automotive goods. If you take the light vehicles and pickup trucks, the new USMCA has to guarantee that the producer has an average salary of $16 an hour. And you can see here the percentages depending on the salary of the technical content and assembly operations and materials and manufacturing costs. This means that the labor value content, LVC, it must be 40% in cars and 45% in pickups. This means here 4 increases in the next 4 years. What brings also strength to the new administered trade is the steel and aluminum. 70% must be purchases done in the NAFTA region. So the regional value content must be 75% also in the next 4 years. And what does this mean? There will be components, different components, the so-called essential, the principal, and the complementary. The essential must be 75% of value content, the principal components 70%, and the complementary 65%. And here's the difference between heavy vehicles. I won't enter into the heavy vehicles detail. And also something very important that brings also a next level of development in Mexico is the labor obligations that are a core of the USMCA. Which commitments are in the USMCA? Effective application of labor legislation, implementation of the fundamental labor rights, complementing agreements focused on the care of violent cases against workers, protection of migrants, combat forced labor, and protection against job discrimination. Mexico assumed specific commitments to ensure the representation of workers in collective negotiations. Which benefits are here for Mexico? That with COVID-19, the United States realized that it was dangerously dependent on the global supply chain, especially for some medicines and medical equipment. The opportunity for Mexico is investing in our country is nearshoring. As you can see, Mexico is the second largest trading partner of the United States, but in 2019, Mexico and the United States had the #1 relationship. Actually, we dropped 1 place. We expect finishing the COVID period to regain this position. And what we are looking for, precisely more investments between Mexico and the US, more investments of America in Mexico. In 10 years, the US has invested 69 billion in Mexico and 85 billion in China. We have still a very good opportunity to bring part of those investments to Mexico in the nearshoring process. Which sectors do we see with potential to attract investments to Mexico? This one is a very important slide, but this doesn't mean that if your company is not in these sectors, I'm sure that we can review the numbers and there will be also huge requirements. But this one is the most famous one, the most important and with the highest impact. Automotive, aerospace, machinery and equipment. The next group, we can find medical equipment, pharmaceutical, digital economy, and obviously everything that has to do with logistics and transport, agriculture and agribusiness. These are really key industries and the key factors that we are looking at the USMCA free trade agreement are stricter rules of origin. That's why we can have more interest of these sectors to invest in Mexico. National security and nearshoring, and the new normality. That was my presentation. I hope that if you have questions, obviously via the actual seminar, you can do this here, or if you want something extra, I will be happy also to answering all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francisco. Wow, that was amazing, truly wonderful. I've been to many webinars that share on USMCA, and though they've all been very good, I think this one by far was the most informative, and I feel like I have a great context now on where Mexico stands and how we can further think about Mexico with business. I also want to say that Francisco will be here for Q&A. So he'll be hanging out in the background, and I encourage you all to continue putting in your questions into the Q&A box. Some have already been answered live. Thank you, Miguel, for doing that. But please, if you feel like something wasn't clear or there's a data point you missed, this is the time to start putting in your questions into the Q&A. And now here's the exciting part of our webinar. We've gone out of our way to really try and bring you the most global participants to share their insights with you. So we have Mr. Paolo Ratto coming in from Italy. Paolo is the operations director from Guala Dispensing. It's a leading supplier of triggers, sprayers, and pump dispensers, and they have their headquarters in the north of Italy. Thank you, Paolo, for joining us despite the time difference today. We also have Sergio Herrera, Director of Global Facilities and Real Estate for Lear Corporation. Lear Corporation is an automotive and seating and e-systems company. Sergio comes to us with more than 17 years of experience. He's specialized in construction of new manufacturing facilities, including Mexico, Brazil, Honduras, Morocco, etc. And we also have Mr. Randy Wara, who is representing Nidec Mobility. Nidec is a Japanese company, also with many different offices all over the world, and many production plants all over the world as well. They are an automotive and electric vehicle products corporation. So thank you all. If you could just join us now and put on your cameras, we can begin our wonderful chat. So thank you all. Just to quickly break the ice, Randy and everyone else, Paolo, I've already mentioned, I know you're in Italy. Thank you again.
Morning.
Where are you all right now in the world?
Myself, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, or good evening. Myself, I'm in Chicago right now, so I'm responsible for North America and Europe, so it's a pleasure to be on this webinar.
Thank you, Randy. What about you, Sergio?
Good afternoon. I'm in El Paso, Texas.
Wonderful. And Paolo, what part of Italy are you joining us from?
I'm in the north of Italy, in a small town, Alessandria, close to Milan.
Wonderful. I'd love to go up to that Lake Como area at some point. So thanks again for your time. I know you're all busy and you're very important executives that have really dedicated your lives to manufacturing. So the first important question is, many of you had options when looking for a manufacturing plant. Why did you choose Mexico? Why don't we start with you, Sergio?
Well, as you said, Lear is a manufacturer of car seats and electric wiring systems. And it's very close to the US. So we have basically made two decisions. One is to supply the Mexico market. As you know, Mexico is the fifth largest producer of cars in the world. And as such, we have to be right next to our customer. And that's one of the factors that made us move into Mexico. And also we're exporting a lot of products into the US. So that's basically the reason.
Randy, what about you?
Well, we make automotive electronics, and in automotive, you need to have regional capability in all areas. And the Guanajuato area, the area that Miguel emphasized, was really the perfect place. It's like the Detroit of Mexico. So it was a perfect place to be. A lot of the OEMs have car plants there we ship to, and it's just was a very good place to grow the business, considering the very friendly business environment. So it turned out to be a very good decision. So we've been continuing to grow there.
Thank you, Randy. And you, Paolo, why Mexico, especially since you're not in the automotive industry, with sprayers, pump dispensers, and in plain terms, lids full of bottles? Why Mexico?
Well, we are a small, medium-sized Italian company, and we had business opportunities in the United States, and we decided to set up our manufacturing operation in Mexico. And we toured the whole of Mexico, and at the end we decided to set up in Guanajuato because for us it was the best compromise from the logistic point of view, from all the other side conditions. And I think one of the reason of the decision was also to find a partner that we trusted in the area, because as a small company, when you do something overseas, you are afraid to make mistakes. And so selecting a good partner and a place where you have confidence to be successful is very important. And that's why we got there.
It's funny, Paolo, that you say you're a small company. You have 3 plants, San Luis Potosí, Querétaro, Guanajuato, and I understand you also have a plant in China. You still call yourself a small...
No, when comparing with multinational automotive companies, there's maybe several plants in Mexico and so forth.
Right. And I want to mention, for those of you that saw our invitation, we also had today a strong female leader from a German company that works making parts for vehicles for Volkswagen and others. And she had an unfortunate emergency and was unable to join us today. So we wish her luck. I'm sad as a female that we can't hear from another female leader, but it's true. Most of these companies compared to Paolo's companies are larger, with manufacturing operations that are truly global. On that note, as you select Mexico and you chose Mexico, how long did it take to really get up and running? It's not a one-day thing. You have to get permits. Let's start maybe with you, Randy. When you started operations in Mexico, what would you say was the time frame for you to really be in operation?
Well, we spent, I actually spent about 3 months going to 7 different states in Mexico. Finally ended up in Guanajuato, working with a lot of partners, shelter companies, talking to state governments, trying to understand the incentive base. Again, very pro-business. The shelter concept is very, very developed in Mexico compared to the rest of the world. So definitely getting the right partners in place, finding someone that can build the building. Lintel turned out to be a great partner. So we initiated the project. I was on a very tight time frame. I had a customer that, OEM that had committed to building product there without the plant. So we needed to get it done. We did accomplish building the plant in 6 months. Great job by the Lintel team. Not the recommended time frame from Lintel, but they accomplished it. We were able to move equipment in, qualify. In 7 months, 7.5 months, the project was basically complete. So successfully met the time frame, was able to immediately move in business and begin production and shipping.
Thank you, Randy. What about you, Sergio? How long to?
We have been in Mexico for 25 years, so I'll say we're local. We have over 45 facilities in Mexico throughout northern and central Mexico. But as Randy said, it's about 3 months. It's about right. It takes us, the construction or we lease a facility. It depends on what we do, but it's the timing is about right.
Okay.
I don't see any problems that we have, haven't overtaken that present a hurdle for us.
And you, Paolo?
We took about 3 months in touring Mexico and visiting industrial park and contacting local authorities, promotion bureaus, these kind of offices. And then we finally selected Guanajuato, and from the time we signed the contract to buy the land, we took 7 months to get the building ready to receive equipment. And 3 months later, we were in production. So we had a total cycle of about 11 months from signing the contract for the land and the building, and the time we shipped out the first cargo to the United States.
Okay. Okay. Good to hear. And you mentioned shipping, so this is great. Why don't we talk about logistics and transportation? How easy is it to get production out of Mexico, whether it's the U.S. or Europe? Why don't we start with you, Randy?
Well, I think one of the key aspects is to make sure that you have a solid basis for the logistics activity, especially if you're an IMEX company, you're temporarily importing product and exporting. So it's very complex, and you need the right partners to go manage that. If you do it wrong at the beginning, you've got a mess that's going to take you some time to go clean up. Some companies have some routes that, multiple companies, so they have that set up. If they're new, using the shelter companies inside of Mexico is a very good approach to start that and make sure it's set up correctly at the beginning.
Okay. And Sergio, how about you?
It's key that if you're going to export to the U.S. from any Mexican facility, that you meet U.S. customs requirements, and that those start not at the border but at your facility. So once you meet, even with the height of a fence on your building, that goes to that extent. So you have to be aware of those. I have all the paperwork ready, and basically complying with all Mexican and U.S. regulations is not that hard, and the actual export into the U.S. is very simple.
Okay, great. And Paolo, maybe U.S. and
Yes, it was relatively simple for us too, and nobody mentioned the shipping time. Basically, in 7 days by truck, you can reach most of the destination in the United States, and so it's not too difficult to give a good service to U.S. customers.
I love these webinar opportunities because we really get a chance to demystify a lot of what's out there. Oh, it takes so long to do business in Mexico, or shipping time is terrible. And really, I think it's folks that are misinformed or maybe read 1 or 2 bad articles, and then, that somehow becomes the norm. Just like Mexico being this terrible, scary place where it's dangerous and there's narcos everywhere. So why don't we talk a little bit about the personal side? Many of you either move to Mexico or travel there quite often. How realistic would you say that the media portrays Mexico? Is it dangerous? Is it really that bad as people say? Why don't we start with Sergio?
Okay. Let me just say that I was born in Mexico, so I'm kind of biased on this. As any other country, and I have been fortunate enough to travel to several countries, there's no difference in being a dangerous country. If you're in the wrong place, it is dangerous, as the U.S. is. If you're in Chicago, you're in Chicago. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, it is dangerous. So for manufacturing purposes, it's as safe as any other country that we work in. And we are in 39 countries. So we don't have any problems in Mexico that we don't have in any other country. Again, going out to dinner and all that on a personal basis, just be aware that, you're in a different country, and don't go to places that you don't like, and they're dark, you can tell. But other than that, it is a safe country to be in and live with and work in.
So how about a non-biased opinion? Paolo, do you want to share with us what it's like to be in Mexico, especially as a European?
No, I totally agree with the picture that was delivered by Sergio. And I can add facts that we've been there for 10 years, and normally we have from 5 to 7 foreigners in the plant, and we didn't have a single bad experience. As Sergio mentioned, any country is dangerous if you go in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if you follow certain rules, and it's as safe as any other country. Of course, if you read the newspaper, you can find out a lot of crime, but our experience so far has been positive from this respect.
Thank you, Paolo. And Randy?
I guess my comments are going to be somewhat normalizing. Again, I think what Sergio said is correct. I go to Sao Paulo, Brazil very often, and you really can't go walk the city at night. So, you got to be very aware when you're going to different regions. But again, Mexico, every country has their own unique situation. So you need to be aware of it. You need to have the right security services giving you the right updates, where to go, where you can't go. Obviously, you have to deal with, the different aspects of the dynamic that's occurring, and you can't ignore it. You need to pay attention to it. You need to train your people. This is what we do. It's there, but if managed correctly, then you'll have limited problem.
Understood. I've traveled to Mexico probably 25, 30 times and never had an issue. I've been robbed, however, in Lima, Peru, and I've had issues in Brazil as well. In any event, I'd like to know a little bit about how you would compare Mexico and your operations in Mexico to some of your more global locations. Paolo, I understand you have a plant in China. How does Mexico compare to China?
Probably in China, people is more disciplined. And you can tell from the government they have since many years. However, of course, there's a cultural difference. Mexican people are Latin, so they are very warm since the very beginning. And you have to work a lot to transfer the culture that the company wants to establish. But you can get, the experience is you can get the result that you want to get if you put in enough efforts.
Thank you, Paola. Any quick comments, Randy or Sergio, about how this Mexico operation compared to some of your other global locations?
I'll just state real quickly, again, China's different culture. It's very disciplined. Also, the industrial base is a lot more sophisticated. So you really have to establish your own company culture. You got to be intentional about it. You need if you want a bad news first type of culture, you really need to focus on it and keep it in place. So again, you've got to drive your own culture in the company. At the same time, culture is culture. Culture always wins. Mexico culture has its strength, their innovation, their creativity. You need to focus on that. Try to drive discipline, but try to leverage the innovation mind.
I love that. Sergio?
You're absolutely right. Culture is essential, and when you understand the culture, you can do your manufacturing processes. We have very standardized processes, so they're about the same everywhere in the world. But Mexico represents about 30% of Lear's sales worldwide, so we are very successful in Mexico.
I love hearing that. Thank you so much. We could go on forever, but I think it's really important for our audience, and especially our Latin SF stakeholders, to really get a transparent opinion. You are all here volunteers. We obviously haven't begged you or paid you money to be here. You're here on your own sort of desire. Can we just talk about any troubleshooting in Mexico? Obviously, you're all successful there, but maybe what would be difficult, or what's a recommendation you would leave our audience with if they are planning to do business in Mexico? Randy, should we start with you?
Certainly. I would say if you're starting new, you need to have the right partners. And so for me, it was to make sure that You know, I understood the government representation, the pro-business, the key contacts. I used a shelter service to start up. So having those partners along with a construction company like Lintel, all of a sudden you had partners and team members that would allow you to make sure that you didn't take a step that was out of line, meaning that you had all of the permitting in place, you knew what was going to take longer. And that allowed you to keep your schedule. At the same time, using shelter services, I was able to get the help from an HR, from a safety perspective, from a logistics perspective up front, make sure it was set up properly without having a team in Mexico. So this is what I would recommend. You got to get your partner set and then stay close and run your project. And again, the shelter, the business, pro-business mind in Mexico is very strong. Shelter concept is very strong, sophisticated compared to anywhere else I've set up a factory. So this would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Randy. Paolo.
I totally agree with Randy's suggestion. Select the right partners. If you're going to build your own plant, probably just entrust all the activities to one partner to avoid be the mediator of conflict between different contractors. And then, of course, for select the right partner for the EMEX and customs affairs, and for accounting. And then you can select shelter system, or if you want to venture on your own, you can do some activities on your own. And Guala did a mix, like we hired our own staff, and for some items like HR, we found our own way. And for other issues that are more complicated, like customs and EMEX, of course, we needed we selected a partner. Too difficult to go all by yourself on any item.
Sure, in any country, really. Sergio, any last comments?
Absolutely the same. I've been doing this for 45 years, and I do recommend, if this is going to be your first project in Mexico, get a consultant that you trust, and from site selection, from day one, you get it, and help let them help you work your process into a construction and ultimately into manufacturing process.
Great. Well, please hang tight. We're going to go into Q&A now. I'd like to welcome back Miguel Barrera from Lintel, Francisco Gonzalez, our public official here in our webinar, and Luis Aguirre, president of Index. Please join us again. We have some great questions. A really funny, quick one, Paolo, from our very fun friend Andreas from Mita Ventures. He wants to know, are you an Inter or AC Milan fan?
Inter.
Inter. All right, we miss you, Andres. Always nice to have you.
Very quick response there.
Okay. Well, I get through all these questions. We've got a ton. So let's start with the first one. This one is for Miguel. It says from Martin. Thank you, Miguel, for your educational information. You mentioned very large electrical power consumption substantiations in your parks. How do you manage the perceived lack or quality of electrical power in the country?
Okay, the amount of power that I showed on my presentation in terms of the infrastructure that we have in our parks, we ourselves as developers build the substation and then we turn it over to CFE, which is a power company, and they operate it. And what we do is we bring the high tension line of 115 kV, we lower it down or step it down to 34.5 in our own parks. And what we do is the amount of power that we have, if we divide it by the amount of land that we can sell, we come up with what we call design density. That design density, we own the rights of the KVAs or the rights of the power. And you pay those rights directly to the park because we want to ensure that there are available free. And we issue a letter, and with that letter, you go to CFE and you contract the power. But to your point, you are right. I mean, part of your question or your assumption is correct. President Peña created a new sector with new reform, with the new energy reform called SENACE. And in essence, SENACE, it works like an internal affairs kind of a department. And they were supposed to be in charge of regulating new players in terms of power generation or power supply. And things take a long time now with SENACE, rather than before where you had to deal with CFE only. It takes some time, but to your point, I mean, make no mistake, we're one of the very lucky ones that we have the power in place for companies that need to move in very fast. I hope I answer your question.
Sounds about right. We've got a question from Thomas O'Keefe. For the industrial parks located in the Bajío, what is the situation with potential shakedowns associated with the criminal cartels? Do they leave manufacturers based in the industrial parks alone? Is this true of finished product being transported out of these industrial parks through Mexico for export? I ask because the highest homicide rates in Mexico are today in the Bajío, particularly in the state of Guanajuato, and this is linked to the cartels.
Good question. Well, oh, sorry, Randy.
I just my personal experience right now. There may be a rise of local crime, but nothing associated with the cartels. So I think it's overstated. Frankly, I'm not certainly having any issues at all, and I've got a factory of over 1,200 people there. So I think the actual position of Guanajuato is kind of ideal. It's not really where the cartels operate so much. So I wouldn't put any validity or worry into that aspect of it. But that's my comment, Miguel.
That's a very good one, and I agree with you. In the last months, in terms of security, we have seen great coordination of the federation, state, and municipality with remarkable results. The arrest of important actors in organized crime, and to Randy's point, this, particularly in Guanajuato, it all started with organized crime, but on the crude or the petroleum part of not precisely drugs. And patrols by the state are having a greater presence in the industrial corridor, regardless of which part. And by the same token, strategy of the National Guard to place stations in specific places on the premises of the industrial zones have been significant support for the security strategy. We have almost 60,000 employees in our parks and 10 parks. We've never, and knock on wood, we've never had any criminal activity inside the park or any, some sort of attack or anything directly to any employee within the premises of the park. So I tend to agree with Randy and his impression.
Actually, the person who asked that question, Thomas O'Keefe, has raised his hand. I'm going to allow him to talk. Thomas, so you're here with us. Would you like to maybe follow up on your question, or did we answer your question? You might want to unmute yourself. I have given you permission, so it's on you now. Can you hear us? Or maybe we've answered your question. Okay, it looks like maybe we answered his question. He definitely has talking permitted. So Thomas, if you can hear us and you want to chime in later, then you're fine. We're almost out of time. So there are more questions in the Q&A. What we'll do is we will reach out personally to all of you and make sure your questions are answered. You could reach us at info@globalsf.biz. You could reach me personally at jvallejo@latinsf.org. We will be sending out the recording to everyone. And I think the best way to wrap up this webinar today, unless someone has a closing comment, any closing comment? Okay, I think the best way to wrap up is to show the Lintel video one more time. For those of you that joined in a little later, I could see the participant numbers going up and down. So I'd like to thank you all. Thank you, Randy, Paolo, and Sergio for giving us your time, especially in different time zones. Thank you, Miguel. You've been such an incredible partner in learning more about manufacturing, but really if we had to tell our stakeholders where to go for industrial parks, we wouldn't think twice about Lintel. And finally, Francisco and Luis, such a wealth of knowledge, both from the public sector and from the industry sector. Thank you so much. And we'll leave you here with our video.
Thank you.
Founded in 1983 in Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, is a construction company specialized in industrial parks, which designs and builds by making innovations with the highest quality standards. We are the first construction company certified under ISO 9002, having constructed the first industrial building, which obtained the LEED Gold certification for our engineers in 2008. We are constantly innovating our technology, specializing in the tilt-up construction system, which offers added value. 95% of our clients are foreigners. We participate in 2 or more projects with 93% of them. We think. We design. We build. Strategic location. In the region of the Bajío, at the center of the most dynamic zone for industrial development in Mexico, Mexico City, Jalisco, and Nuevo León. Guanajuato Inland Port, with 5 industrial parks, Santa Fe, which are an example of the joint work of Lintel and the state government in one of the most important and dynamic clusters in Latin America. Las Colinas de Silao, Guanajuato, is also located in the most important logistic node of the state. Colinas de Apaseo el Grande, Guanajuato, an industrial park for the supply of our neighbor, Toyota. Colinas de León, Guanajuato, which places León on the world map as an attractive industrial destination in our country. Colinas de San Luis, in San Luis Potosí. Its great location allows for an important reduction in transportation times. And Colinas de Lagos, Jalisco, which is integrated into the development of the region, innovating processes and building methods. Lintel Intelligence, a master plan of innovation, precision, and sustainable success.